Okay, I found it. So this is some work that Emil is actually working on as we speak. He's preparing for a presentation at the next RIPE meeting. So you get a very early preview, and so maybe some of our conclusions have to change as well. But since it's a lightning talk, I thought it would be interesting to share this with you. So if you look at Rockville Dream, then in general I believe in IPv4 it's considered routable if you announce prefixes up to a /24. In IPv6 that's not so well defined yet. So there is a document, a RIPE document that has a suggestion there. You can read that so that it's prudent to look for a good IPv6 allocation. And ultimately the community will decide, but they have not decided yet. The majority of ISPs, however, accept prefixes up to a length of a /48 within PA space. There was some discussion on the IPv6 operators list, maybe also on the NANOG list, I forget, about whether a /48 out of PA space without a covering prefix should or should not be, or could or could not be used. And whether it's actually being filtered, and whether this was good. So the community is currently deciding and trying to figure out, are /48s filtered or are they not filtered, and specifically 48s out of IPv6 PA space. So again, I showed you this, little atlas device that we have. By the way, I have 4 with me that I can hand out if people want to plug it into their network, so they become part of. But you have to promise that you plug it in, because otherwise it's just a waste of resources. Don't take this one, that's just a demo one, it's not actually working. I have 4 ones that do work. So we have about 700 plus IPv6 enabled RIPE Atlas probes. I mentioned earlier on that we have about 500 that we are pretty sure of always work with IPv6. So what we did with those probes, we did actually traceroute 6 for about 2 hours at the same time for these 3 types of checks. Like we went to a /48 in a for /48 address that was in a 32 PA space. We went for one that was in PI space. And we went for a /48 that was not covered by a short prefix. The results that we see is this. So we have a baseline there where we go to a /32 with Google. We all know that Google supports IPv6 pretty well and is quite reachable from over the world. So we consider that together with the one 48 PI space that goes to nswrite.net as a baseline. And so we see that we have about 575, 580 probes that can actually reach the target. We have 4 and 3 that are failing. And out of those 4 and 3, we have in each case 1 that fails with a not end sign, means network not reachable at some destination, so someplace in the network. If we go to /48s out of PA space, the first one that we have, Cloudflare, does have a covering /12, so there is a covering announcement, and then we see that we actually have 12 failures, 4 of which are, network unreachable. And if we go to the other one, RTLDE, which is just out of PA space, so that has no covering prefix, then we see that we have actually a few less, but still more than we have in the baseline. So it looks to us that there is some /48 filtering taking place in the routing world. And so what we see is that around 1 to 2% of the Atlas probes cannot trace route to a 48 out of PA space. It's not a big number, but it is a number that is currently being filtered. Or, well, we think it's being filtered. We're not 100% sure it's filtering, but pretty good indication that it is. We of course do not know how representative this is for the internet at large. So it's right Atlas probes, although they are spread quite over the world. As I said, some 500 to 600 probes that we are using. A guess that we have is that people or operators that actually care and think about prefix filtering /48 filtering, they are more likely to have probe than Joe, anyone who doesn't really care about the filtering. Even if you're just a regular end user that thinks about these kind of things, you are much more likely to connect to an ISP that actually has a well-defined IPv6 strategy and support. So we think that these people make conscious decisions. The work is still being done. These were some of the first measurements that we found. Actually, we had one earlier, but that was the 3 different measurements we did then were not exactly in the same 2 hours. So, if you go the next day, the situation can be a little bit different. So here we made sure that it's in the same couple of hours that we're doing the measurements, so we can compare them to each other. And Emil is probably going to talk more about this in the routing working group in the upcoming RIDE meeting, not the coming week, but the week after. And if you have questions, you can send them to Emil, or you can ask them from me. I'm not sure I can answer them, depending on the time. Emil is about to leave the office, so I doubt he's going to be able to dial in. But if you have ideas, if you have suggestions, if you have questions, please let us know, because we think this is some useful information, and it may help the community to decide, whether filtering at the /48 makes sense or not, or up to what prefix it makes sense. Questions is always the last one. So these Atlas probes, if I may take a few more minutes. So one thing we have with these Atlas probes, we have, as I said, more than 2,000 handed out. 1,700 are online at the moment. Normally when we hand them out, we hope that people will actually plug them in and activate them. I have 4 with me for people who want to have one. Check with me later, but you have to really promise to do that. The other thing we're currently looking at is to create somewhat bigger Atlas probes, a few, not like 1,500 or so, what we call Atlas anchors. Some of you may be aware of the TTM boxes, and so the TTM boxes are being phased out. We don't have that many in the world, but we have a number of them, and we think that the Atlas anchor systems, so they are not probes, but they're actually predefined machines. If you host them, then they will be points in your network or in your location that the outside world can actually have a stable point that they can do measurements to and use that as a baseline to compare, other measurements. And we're certainly looking for such an anchor point in Finland. So if there's anybody here, then talk to me or talk to Vesna. And we can actually go online and look a little bit more. I think there was a Labs article. Labs is, by the way, is just an area on our website where all sorts of technical articles can be published. As a matter of fact, like if you have research like what you were presenting and you want to get it discussed in this community, in the RIDE community, then that's a place where you can actually publish, and you can solicit for comments and discuss with other people. Here we go. So there's lots of things here. I thought that I'm actually not 100% sure if the anchor probe was already announced on Atlas. I think it was, but we'll look it up. Those who are interested, talk to me tonight. I should be at the sauna, I think.
Yeah, well, TREX already hosts one of those, and we would be happy to host also him.
Wow. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I use the stick in here?